Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. What this is I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of this mini album, but what is following is the process I used to make the mini album. How I cut the chipboard, what I used for it, and then I will be decorating that as well. The decorating part isn't, I don't speak through the whole decorating part. You just can decorate along with me and see if you want to how I did some of the pages, but the beginning of it will show you how I did it. There is another walkthrough video which is more detail. I'm just going to flip through the pages to reacquaint you with what is here. I did try to make the pages so they coordinate together. There are some chipboard pages and some cardstock pages. This is cardstock. The album measures 8.5 by 5 for the most of the pages, but it goes as tall as 9.5 once you add the peaks to the house. So again, this one is chipboard or cardstock. The ones with the shapes on the top are going to be the chipboard, and I did use black chipboard. It has a black core, so I really didn't have to do anything special to it as far as inking it or making sure that you wouldn't detect that it was black cardstock. I'll put a link in the description box below where I got that as well. So, love the papers. I did use the paper pack and the coordinating petite print assortment. So those two were enough. I probably could have done it either way, used two, and this orange is from my stash. I could have used two kits, maybe, two paper collections, but I didn't. And then I used rings to hold it. I just made 2 holes, 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom, and bound it together. You could probably do it without the chipboard. You could do it with a heavy-duty cardstock, but I sort of like the strength of this. So here we go. I'm going to show you how I made the mini album. Alright, so this is the wooden house that I picked up at Dollar Tree, and this gave me the inspiration for making the shape of the album. So I first determine how high I want the pages. I end up making the base part of the pages 5 inches. So I play around with where I'm going to put these triangular peaks of the house onto the chipboard. I trace around this house and then I cut it out. And I guess for simplicity's sake, I'll call these triangle pieces the towers. So I have 3 of the towers. One is in the center of the mini album, and there's 2, one on each side. So you just make one where the center is taller, and then make 2 of about the same sizes where it's, so this, the top peak is 9.5 inches. The other ones, the top of them are 7.5 to 8 inches. So I know it's not a very tried and true description, but it was one of those things that I just sort of made it up as I went along, and to be honest, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Now, after I do these towers, the triangular pieces, I wanted a couple of chipboard shapes for inside, and I took 1 piece of chipboard and measured down the center, and after messing around with it, I thought I might need a 1 inch tall piece. I ended up making it 1/2 inch tall. You'll see in just a second after I finish cutting these. I'm just using my X-Acto to cut it. My only hint to you is just make sure it's a sharp X-Acto, and then that will work. See, there's 3 different heights. Okay, here's the one where I cut 2 pieces out. That center line is 5.5 inches, just the center of an 8.5 by 11 piece. And then you'll see there's 1 inch on the top there. There's 1 inch. And I'm looking at it trying to decide if I want to have it 1 inch. I end up cutting it at 5.5 on each side. I cut it in my paper trimmer and then just do the rest of the cutting with my X-Acto. So that's it, just two pieces. They sort of look like a file folder. So, and then that's how I put them in. Now, here I am going to cover the cardboard shapes or the chipboard shapes. I do a couple of different methods. At first I thought, all right, I'm going to trace around it and then cut it out and glue it on. So I trace around the whole thing, start cutting. I think I might cut this one entirely, but then I realized there is a better way of doing it. But let's watch me struggle with this for a second. I mean, I'm using the chipboard shape as my template on to figure out exactly how to cut. So it's not terrible. Of course, you have to remember to pay attention to the orientation. And then I just end up gluing this down. I am using the Art Institute Dries Clear Designer Adhesive, otherwise known as Art Glitter Glue. It has no glitter in it, but I think it was made for glitter, and that's why they called it Art Glitter Glue. But it's a really good adhesive for paper crafting. It's permanent, it dries clear, it has a little bit of a sheen to it if you get it onto the cardstock base, but it comes clear. So now I'm trying to use the rest of this piece that I have to, so I don't waste any of it. So I'm cutting out another shape, just using the template of the tower. So I'll finish cutting this out, cut in the corners, make sure it will all come out. And then this ends up being the back page. I end up having to trim a little bit. So adding some glue. Whoops, I put it down on the chipboard. No harm, no foul. I end up grabbing another piece of orange paper. This is from the Petite Print collection. And obviously it's sort of a buffalo check. And I don't mind that it's two different patterns. It actually works. Okay, is this where I get smart and just glue it down? Nope, still not yet. So still cutting. Oh, I did glue it down first. All right, now I'm going to do the back of it. So we're going to go through and cut all the shapes. I find later you'll see that I just glue down the chipboard onto the paper and then cut around it. And I find that works just as good as anything else. And I do go around. I started to grab an emery board and sand around the corners, and I found it just was tedious and time consuming and didn't give me the bang for the buck, and I wanted to get to decorating. So I just inked around the edges with a black soot distress ink and called it a day. Okay, I'm going to go in super fast speed and just get it done. See, I glued this down and then I'm cutting it. And that seems to be the easiest method. So hopefully you watch this all the way through and learn from my mistakes. Put it down in the bottom corner, put the glue on, smush it, use my bone folder and smush it down, and we're done. I do both sides. Now you may want to sit and figure out, if you're not going to use my same pattern, you might want to sit and figure out what you're going to do. When I was doing this part, I didn't realize I was going to make cardstock pages, so I was trying to have pages that would be next to each other and that would coordinate. So yes, sometimes I sit down and sketch my pages out, and other times I just fly by the seat of my pants. I think that's pretty much what I did with this whole thing. The Petite Prints, is that what it's called again? I'm looking at the paper. The Petite Print assortment is great to cover. You saw I did use some of the patterns, but not all. Now I start decorating. This is going to be the cover, and as you can see, I took that print piece that was from the sticker sheet that came in the 12 by 12 collection. And that's going to go on the roof line of the tower. I thought that one with the scalloped edges was perfect to put on a roof. So I put it on, and then I turn it over and cut from the other side, because you may have noticed that the roof line is not a straight angle. It sort of has a little bit of a bend to it, and that's what I'm cutting right now. And to be honest, that is all there is to building the mini album. It's cutting it out of the chipboard and then putting the cardstock pages in between the chipboard. Some are 5 by 8.5, and some are, one is 5 by 7.5, and one was 5 by 8.5, but I scored it at 5 inches and made a flip. So here's how I decorated. There are sometimes I forget and have my camera turned off and we speed forward and whoops, it's done. For the window, that's the window with the orange stripe and the pink border, I just cut a 4x4 piece and cut out the center using my X-Acto and put it on that orange piece of the same size. Trying to decide exactly how I wanted, if I wanted the white border, and I end up deciding, yeah, I do like that white border on there. So I put that down, then put the pink on top of it. I was going to have, I was going to have window panes in the center, and then decided, you wouldn't be able to see my little creatures with the window panes. It would just sort of take away from it. All those things in that lid are the odds and ends from the same collection. And I just go through it every once in a while to decide exactly how I want to decorate it. Oh, here we have a doodle shaker. This is the ghost doodle shaker. I wanted a shaker element on the front just to add some fun to it. And then you'll see I don't know exactly where I want to put it. Now you have to remember when you're decorating that 1/2 inch on the left-hand side is where you're going to punch a hole for the circle for the ring binding system. I was going to use my cinch. I have a mini cinch, and I think they're 3/4 inch coils. I don't know, they're not that big, and I didn't think that when all said and done, I don't think I had enough room. Now these pieces I'm using, that purple, is a paper frill from the Paper Frills. I guess it's not purple, it's lilac. Just it's the funny, fancy edges, and they add a nice element. I was looking for black, but they didn't have black in stock, so I got the purple, and honestly it worked very well. There was also in this sticker sheet that swirly piece. So did I grab the swirly piece? The problem with that is you have to pull out the holes from the center of that swirly piece. So I get them all over my fingers, but eventually I end up using that yeah, I got my little pokey tool and take all those little centers out for the area that I'm going to cover. I eventually do get all of those little circles out. Sometimes they come off when you peel it off of the sticker sheet, but obviously it didn't at this point. Yeah, they're all over my fingers and everything. But I use those for the eave of the house, and the good thing about this is they sort of bend to the curve in that roof line. All right, I have to deal with all those little circles. Okay, I like that. I like that look, and of course I love that purple and green. There was a heart on the sticker sheet that I used. I just had this scrap of that diagonal black and white stripe that I put in just to add a little bit of interest. I probably should have added more colors here and there. So I just have it peeking through. I have the black cardstock, then white. The black cardstock, by the way, is 6.5 inches. The white is 6 I'm sorry, 6.5 by 4.5. Then the next is 6.25 by 4.25, and then the orange is 6 by 4. So if you were to put a 6 by 4 photo, you are going to cover up all that colored cardstock. However, you can cut the photo down. Now the page on the right is actually 8 inches by 5, and this is heavyweight cardstock. I rounded the corners of it just to add a little oomph to it. I put down a 4.5 by 4.5 black frame with a 4.25 by 4.25 white piece of cardstock on top, but didn't glue down the top, and I took a 1 inch by 4.25 or 4.5 it should have been piece of black cardstock, folded it in half, and then put that 4 by 4 cut apart on top. And then I'm going to grab that border strip with the cars on it and put it down below. I didn't put a magnet on here, I probably should have. So that car on the left hand side, I just glue a little bit on the side and the bottom so you still can tuck a photo. And the tree I glue down on top of that border strip, and that little guy riding the bike is a puffy sticker. I was looking to see what other puffy stickers I can put, and I had some black and white eyeballs that I put on the headlights of the car. I just sort of cut it in half with my little knife. Just something fun. Alright, so I turn it over just because I'm trying to keep the pages straight so I remember what page is going to be facing what. I cut down some cardstock. I think that orange piece is a little less than 5, 4 and 7/8. It's really small. And then the green cardstock to match. I cut that border of the orange pumpkin from that border strip sheet. Took it's about a 2.5 by 2.5 square and put 2.25 by 2.25 inch white square on top to put a small photo, and put that fun Picking the Perfect Pumpkin cut apart right on there. Now I'm working on the next page. I end up turning this around just when I put it in, so these may be a little out of order from what you see in the book. But on this page, that is green. It looks sort of yellow, but it's green. But I sort of piece this page together with some scraps. I need to cut this one down. So I have green on the right, orange on the left, and then I end up making a pocket. And of course, with a pocket, you measure the length of what you're going to make a pocket and cut the piece of paper an inch longer and a half an inch bigger. I had that strip of the pumpkin and I wanted it to fit. I end up having to trim a little bit, but I put the pumpkin, or the paper, the pocket down on the bottom, and then cover that with the cute pumpkin paper, which matches the whole section that I'm making, and it's all about pumpkins. So here, that is a cut apart from one of the pages. I just put it on a piece of black cardstock that's 3.25 by 4.25, and put something on the back, and that's going to go in the pocket. Alright, so the next page I had put the cute orange pumpkin paper on, and I'm adding a 4.5 by 6.5 black cardstock and a couple of layers. And I want this little pumpkin season tag, which I cut and already put a piece of baker's twine in orange and white on the side, so you still could put a picture on there. And then I had this little sentiment that says, "Hello Pumpkin." I put it on a piece of black cardstock, and I am looking for a little pumpkin to put on there, just so it's right at the end of the Hello Pumpkin sentiment. And there we go. I add a pumpkin in the corner of the pumpkin season page, and we're done with those pages. It goes fast, especially when you speed it up 4 times. Alright, let's work on some ghosties. So I love the ghost. It's white and gray and pink, and that's the only color in it. So the blue matches with this, and I use the blue because there's a border strip that has the pumpkins with the blue background. Yeah, that's got writing on it. I still used it. I turned it over. And there's a pumpkin I put on the side of the page. I think I end up moving that pumpkin. I do. I changed the pumpkin after I'm all done. There's the border strip that's got the pumpkins with the blue background, which is why I decided to go with the blue. So on this page, of course, I've got my squares that I layer. I'm cutting some more of those ghosties because you really don't see them on the page on the left. So I want to make sure they're front and center because they're so adorable. And then I will put that border strip down once I cut it down to size. And it's going to go on the bottom of the page, and I just glue basically the sides and a real thin strip along the bottom and then tack it down in the center because this is going to hold that little boo tag. So here's when I start messing around with my ghosties. Oh, you know what? The one I put down, I had just put down with a piece of ATG, so I end up rubbing it off and gluing it down. No harm, no foul. Deciding whether or not I wanted a puffy ghost and decided it wasn't going to do anything for me. Alright, here's where I pull off the ATG, use actual glue, and declare this page done. I think I go along later and add some, I don't think I know. I go along later and add some details. Alright, now the back side of this page, I am playing with the candy paper. Love the color polka dots, but love the candy. I mean, it's just bright and colorful on the black background, and it's fabulous. But the problem with that is it's really busy, and I wanted to put one of the little monsters down, and so I needed to break up some of the design, and then to make it look like it wasn't a mistake, I put some on the corner. So I've got some squares here that are 3 by 3 and black cardstock, white cardstock, and then the pattern paper. And just put them at varying heights on the page, and see, you could see the monster with his cart a little bit more clear than if it was just on that candy background. And then the matching page, again, this is another one I end up flipping as I go, so you'll see it looks out of order. But on this page, I'm just taking that border strip that's got the candy, the trick or treat, smell my feet, and the rainbow stripes. It doesn't fit exactly, so I have to cut another piece and piece it together is basically what I'm doing. And probably when I did the walkthrough you couldn't tell. And if you had the book in your hand, unless you were looking for it, you wouldn't be able to tell that I had pieced this together. Especially when there's stripes, I find you can piece things together much easier. I had to trim it a little. Now I'll glue it down. I have to peel that up so I can stick the one piece under it. And just mess around with that a little bit longer than I need to. Alright, now I'm going to adhere the black cardstock and the white cardstock on top. Sometimes I'll put pattern paper and sometimes I won't. Just depends on how the design is going. Play around with what I want to put on here. Do I want the green? No, I want the green on the roof. Since it's smaller, it bends a little bit easier, but I still turn it over and use a knife to cut it out. That craft knife is my favorite instrument these days. So it says trick or treat, smell my feet on the top, and the bottom has the sentiment, give me something good to eat, which I loved. I thought that was fun. And then all of these little candy shapes were from the odds and ends. And I just put them on the right hand side, left hand side of the page. And later I end up going by and putting a couple of puffy candies on there as well. So I'm looking here, put some on the bottom, but I end up adding more. Again, you'll notice that through the walkthrough. I love these puffy shapes. I don't know that I like that scallop on the bottom, but it is what it is. All right, we're gonna let's party. I mean, these monsters are fabulous. They're just so much fun. After I put that one down, I realized I wanted something on the bottom, and that was a teeny border strip, but it still was a border strip. So I lifted up his feet so it wouldn't dry down there, and I quickly glued that down. And I was messing around with the other monsters, trying to figure out what. I wanted one upside down. So I just added some monsters to this page. There's my upside down one. What am I going to put here? Do I want this? What am I going to do? Well, I know I wanted something on the side of the roof. So that one black with the polka dot border strip, I just put down and use my knife to take a little bit off so you see the curve of it. And yeah, this S-wing guy in the bird cage, the crazy little monster in the bird cage. He is so cute. All right, so this sheet I cut, it was 5 by 8.5, and I scored it at 5. So we have that little fold, and I put magnets on. I had gotten these magnets from somewhere, and I added them to the top and bottom, because sometimes you put a picture or something and it doesn't always adhere, so I decided to add 2 sets of magnets. So we have the pink polka dot on one side. Oh, I have this border strip. I'm trying to figure out what to do and decide, there's nothing I can do with him. I wanted that one little monster to sort of peek out, and I just decided, well, let's have him part of the party. And again, later on you'll notice that I changed the order of this. There is this cute little cut apart that has a kitty cat, and the kitty cats don't go with the monsters, so I cover them up. And then know that that's going to turn, so the other side of it is going to be the side that's going to match with the spider page. So I take some white paper and then some of the blue in the petite prints. Take a little piece of that black with the petite polka dots. I added that little monster sentiment to the side. So I forgot to show you how I did this. I love hanging with you. I'm going to freeze this while I describe it. So that I love hanging with you, I had put on a piece of a magnet on both sides of the cardstock and then cut it, covered that I had scored in the center. And there we go. And that is how you have that little flip. I did put a circle punch that I cut 2 different size circle and put it underneath the scrapbook paper on top, just so you know it's a flip, and it gives you a little handle to pull it. So I'm adding the spiders to the corners of these pages, and I want something on the top there, yes. So I took the back of this page, glued it on, cut it from the back. It's got that beautiful black and white stripe, but I want something on the bottom. So I end up taking a piece of just black cardstock. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch. And then one of those zigzag pieces from the paper frills in white. I mean, you turn the purple upside down and it's white. And I put it on there. I end up adding a couple of puffy spiders to this page. All right, now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this page. So we've got the eyeballs. And I know I'm going to cover up most of the page with the layer of black cardstock and then the white cardstock on top. And I loved this black paper with the white stars. I thought I was going to use stars as a focal point, but I end up not. I used the border strip that says Best Night Ever. I take these cool guys in a row and look for, I glued them on one side, and I look at my puffy stickers for some eyeballs. I would like one big eyeball for the guy on top, but it doesn't fit right. So I end up putting it on the green guy. So he's got those fun eyeballs. I add some glue just to make sure he's going to stick. And then I look at the other eyeballs just to see if I can do anything with them. And they really doesn't go, but at least that green guy's got crazy eyeballs, which goes with the page. So on here I had a scrap of eyeball paper and put it down, and had some of the fabulous plaid paper. For the scallop on the far right hand side, I used those paper frills and turned them upside down, put one on one side, one on the other, and that is how I made the scallop edge. I didn't have a scallop punch that would work for this. And that page, by the way, is 7 inches. I'm trying to count it by the grid. Yeah, it looks to be about 8 inches. I just cut half an inch off and added that scallop thing. So that is how I made that page. I wanted to stop and explain that to you. Okay, I add a monster to the bottom of that page. Look at these stars, trying to figure out where to put it, and yeah, no, they just don't go anywhere. So there, that's when you can see the scallop on that side. So this is just plain orange cardstock. I think it was Doodlebug cardstock, but it wasn't in a package, so I couldn't tell you for sure. I add that whole piece of orange cardstock to this page, and then add my black mat and put Mandarin wood grain, I think is what I would call this page. Trying to figure out where to cut this October 31st border strip. I liked it. It's orange, goes with the page. This is going to be my pumpkin-y section. I took another piece of that wood grain paper. I cut it because I didn't have a full piece, and I'm going to cover it with a 4.5 by 4.5 square, and then I put a 4.25 by 4.25 inch white square on top. And trying to figure out, oh, I want that circle with the scallop sticker right there. I just love that. I know you're going to cover it if you put a picture on there, but it's pretty until then. There's these parentheses, I guess. I want them on the page, but I don't know where I want them. So I had this tag, and I loved the black and white on there. I mean, it goes with the color scheme I'm going with, the black and white and orange. And this monster, he went with that very well, so I glued him over to the side. The pumpkins, they're a great match. This was from the sticker sheet, that sort of zigzag thing, so he goes on the top. So I decided I'm going to use this one piece. I cut out that, it said October 31st, I cut that out, glued the paper to the front, and then take my knife and cut it out. So there we go. I'm going to take my distress ink and just go around the edge of it. It just sort of differentiates it. And I'm cutting really teeny strips to put on either side of that wood grain mandarin colored paper. It's hard to get strips that are consistent in shape or in size, but if you know your paper cutter, then you can do this. All right, now I'm cutting off these little pieces, and it's hard because I haven't let the glue dry, but success. But I find I have to ink the edges of them and the roof. All right, so I have this Happy Halloween tag that I decide I'm going to fussy cut the Happy Halloween because I can't put the tag down onto that black and white diagonal stripe roof line. So I'm just going to cut it out and glue it down on there. Just, you would never know. I mean, don't you love that on the top? I think it makes a great effect. All right, we're gluing the pumpkins down. And I feel like I need something there, but I end up not. We are at the back page. I want to put something else on the back. It looks a little blah. I sort of would like to do that black and white petite polka dot, but then I look for other paper. And then in the end, I end up going for that black and white petite polka dot paper. Oh, it's on the back of the spider paper with the blue. So there it is. Cut a little bit. I know it's 8.5. Cut a little bit. Carefully lift that up. glue that down. Probably could have done something else with the back, added something, but it's just the back of it. Nobody will see it. And that's how I made this Halloween mini album using the Doodlebug Monster Madness 12 double-sided cardstock sheets, the paper pack, 12 by 12 paper pack, and the 12 by 12 paper pack with the petite print assortment. I used odds and ends, I used icon stickers and icon puffy stickers, and a doodle pop for the ghost on the front. So again, thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.